Anytime I hop on League Pass to do the responsible thing and check in on this or that team, a voice whispers to me from across the void, Zion. I know that I should resist, but many times I can't. I'm powerless. I'm compelled to answer the call and echo the name that has been on the lips of every NBA fan.
Zion!
Zion! Zion!
Zion! Zion Williamson!
At 19 years old, Zion Williamson is already one of the most famous basketball players on planet Earth. He's been a viral sensation, an Instagram legend, a destructor of faulty shoes. His rookie debut was delayed, but he's finally all grown up, rattling teeth and rattling backboards on the biggest hoop stage in the world. Incredible as he is, Zion's brilliance has come with a slew of concerns. Can that frame fly that close to the sun for an entire career, or is he destined to become Icarus? As a person, Zion Williamson is a seemingly normal dude, in many respects. He comes off as shy, polite, smiley. Past that, he might be the weirdest basketball player that I have ever seen. Zion is a convergence of factors that rarely happen in a human being, much less a basketball player. First of all, his frame. He's 6'6", roughly the size of your typical wing, but he weighs 285 pounds, which is roughly the weight of hardly anyone in today's NBA. Modern spacing has raised the demand for lateral agility, and that has pushed traditionally taller positions to be lighter, to the point where there are only 8 players in the NBA this season that weigh over 275 pounds. Zion is shorter than the shortest player on that list, Andre Drummond, by 4 inches. So how can someone of this height and weight pull this off? He's pulling it off in large part because of the second unusual factor, the part that you've probably heard about. Zion Williamson is a generational athletic talent. He is startlingly explosive, both vertically and laterally. We don't have an official combine number for his vertical, but Duke supposedly measured it at 45 inches. That vertical pop really shows up when the ball is up for grabs. Zion has an astonishing ability to elevate quicker than everyone that he comes up against, and often on multiple jumps in a row. I'm also consistently blown away by the strength and the precision of Zion's hands in those situations. I'm not sure I've ever seen a player that can be at the center of a scrum for the ball and not only come away with it, but immediately explode to the rim and score the way he can. And even if you think you've somehow won the ball, he's so relentlessly quick and strong that he can make grown men look like overwhelmed children.
No, what's mine is mine.
People often say that Zion is like a defensive end playing basketball, and that's pretty accurate, but this athleticism is unusual in football too. Only Mario Williams, the stud defensive end that starred for the Texans and the Buffalo Bills for a number of years, put up combine numbers that came close to Zion's. Hardly anyone is quick enough to stay in front of him, and hardly anyone is heavy or strong enough to sustain his abuse. If those two factors weren't enough, there's a third factor that turns the entire ordeal into a nightmare for opposing defenses. Zion is an intelligent basketball player with above-average ball skills. His touch, handle, playmaking instincts, and feel for the game are what could push him over the top and into potentially extraordinary territory. I've heard people call Zion a willing passer, but I don't think that phrase covers it at all. Zion's not a pound-the-ball out top primary ball handler that runs a ton of pick and roll or operates in heavy traffic, but in his spots, he's a pretty terrific passer. His placement, timing, and touch are beyond what you would expect. The more that Zion gets a feel for the types of coverages that are going to come his way, the more dynamic the Pelicans' offense is going to become. He can easily make these kinds of passes, and New Orleans' personnel in turn becomes trickier to deal with. Nicolo Melli is going to get more cutting baskets and open looks from 3, and Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Drew Holiday are each capable drivers, shooters, and creators with great size. Before Zion entered the lineup, NOLA ranked 18th in the NBA in offensive rating. They've jumped to 6th in the last 13 games. Zion's offensive usage is malleable. At this point, he's highly effective in 2 areas: cleaning up unsuccessful offense on the glass, or ISO posting high on the right or left side of the floor. A Zion post-up is already exceptionally difficult to stop. Keeping him away from the rim is like trying to keep Nicolas Cage away from crappy movie scripts. So, naturally, a majority of his own offense comes from here. Of his 250 field goal attempts, 228 of them have been at the rim. Zion typically prefers to catch the ball 12 to 15 feet from the basket. Since he can beat everyone to every spot, with that space, he effectively plays at about 6'10" or 6'11". The first thing that he typically does here is face up, turning his butt to the corner to face the entire floor so that he can see potential double teams and open shooters. Once he's faced up, he's looking to rip through and get to the baseline, and he can do that on either side of the floor with either hand. This is his favorite move. If he beats the defender to that spot, he's usually either scoring or getting fouled. Zion has attempted 137 free throws through his first 16 games. Predictably, defenders get eager to take the baseline and his left hand away from him. Zion knows this, so he mixes up the way he attacks. Sometimes he'll try to catch the defender off guard, like he does here with Kyle Kuzma, skipping the face up and making the move immediately after the catch. And sometimes he'll hit them with a fake rip through that is so fast, it probably shouldn't be viewed by anyone over the age of 50. New Orleans loves to post Zion in transition, hunting for a mismatch that he can punish. So if playing from behind him at that distance is tough, naturally, we'll just keep him from getting the ball, right? That very, very rarely goes well. If a defender even attempts to get between him and the pass, he will seal you there. And at that point, it's over. Lonzo Ball is tremendous at floating these passes over the top and towards the square. Zion's strengths are overwhelming, but he has plenty to improve on in order to expand his impact and extend his shelf life. We talked about Zion's surprisingly proficient handle and his ability to make plays, but teams are still daring him to take multiple dribbles going downhill and make a play. This is likely why we're not seeing him run the show in transition with the ball in his hands. He often seems like he's getting the hang of how and when he should pass out of a drive. As a shooter, Williamson's not a pick-and-pop guy right now at all, and if he faces up and shoots it, that's likely seen as a victory for the defense. With his feet set, with time, he's fine, but barely. He's only attempted 12 threes through his first 16 games, and although he's hit 5 of them, each attempt was completely stationary and almost totally unchallenged. He shoots with the ball sitting on the top of his head, and a lot of his shots appear to just be getting to the rim. I do think that there's a world where he could become a shot creator off the bounce. His touch seems to improve once he gets in the air, and we know that he can create separation. The extent to which Zion can work craftiness into his game is going to be critical. The days of one-step jumping a mile and blowing everyone away with his physical gifts are numbered, and that's already showing up. In college, his field goal percentage at the rim was nearly 80%, and that's come down to 64% in his first 16 games. He's got to work as much patience and old man into his game as he can. Up fakes, the use of angles, more and more misdirection. Honestly, what's Zach Randolph up to? The Pelicans should be recruiting him to be on staff immediately. Defensively, Zion has been underwhelming. He has all the tools to become an all-defensive team player, maybe even a player of the year at some point. When he's keeping up with actions within a play and giving top effort, he is so quick to the ball that he can emphatically erase mistakes. We're not quite there yet. Early on, he's been positionally terrible on the ball. I'd imagine it's a result of working his way into shape and learning the NBA game, but whatever the case, aside from the occasional big block, it's been subpar. Too many inferior athletes are burning him and getting into the lane, and this is usually a result of him over-pursuing the ball handler and getting in over his head. His closeouts are often very lazy and half-hearted, and he's not doing his work early the way that he should. Most disappointing for me has been his defensive motor in transition. Again, it's likely his conditioning and the reprogramming of his body mechanics, but it does seem like his effort has been uneven from offense to defense. Over the last few years, I have seen Zion sprint and bust his ass. I know what it looks like, and I haven't been seeing it. The frightening thing about these areas for growth is that I think they're all correctable and within reach. Every time that Zion has gone up a level of competition, we've waited for his athleticism to fail to translate. There have been some mild pain points, but it's clear that a total failure to translate just isn't going to happen. Among non-centers, Zion is one of the most physically dominant basketball players of all time. Even guys like Charles Barkley or Larry Johnson, both phenomenal athletes with comparable size, pale in comparison when measured against his combination of explosiveness and skill. At this point, if you took Zion's first stretch of games and projected them out across an entire season, you'd have an all-star, possibly more. The question will be whether he can be so tremendous that he catches Ja Morant in the Rookie of the Year race. It would be an amazing come-from-behind win, but it doesn't feel like it's totally out of the question. Sometimes special talents burn so hot in such a short span of time that the collective sports world can't help but worry a little bit. The hope is that the Pelicans can thread the needle between Zion getting into peak condition while also reprogramming his body in the ways that they've expressed publicly. That seems like a daunting task, but I'm rooting for them to pull it off. Even if Zion stays what he is, he's one of the best players in the NBA. However, if he starts to check some of the boxes that we've discussed, I think that his impact could become so wide-ranging and so severe that he's going to become an MVP level player. Let me know if you agree.